So let's talk about hoodoo and how black Americans began to say that it's strictly for black Americans, yet in the same breath they say that it came from enslaved black Americans while acknowledging that those people groups who were enslaved and black in America were from Central and West Africa. It's also essential to understand that a lot of us, specifically my Choctaw Native Indian ancestors, they were born free. Unfortunately, two of them were captured and they had to go to courts to begin to testify for their freedom. And we seen this in the movie Amistad with the Cerebro and the Mindi and the Mendinkan people whom were kidnapped from Central West Africa, inclusive of Morocco, Mauritania, the Mali Empire, and sold into slavery. We see this even with black loyalists, which would be your black Europeans who were kidnapped and sold into slavery, and then they had to go to court and testify in order to prove that they indeed were born free. So let's get into the origins of hoodoo. It's essential to know that the original spelling of hoodoo is not Hoodoo. That would be Hudu as well as Hodu. Hoodoo in Hebrew is going to be spelled Hodu. In Central and West Africa, hoodoo is also spelled Hodu. Hoodoo is also known as juju. There are different types of hoodoo as far as conjure work, so on and so forth. We're not going to get into all of that in this video. When we begin to look at the word hoodoo in Hebrew, this word is seen throughout the Bible over 100 times. In Hebrew, this word simply means to give thanks, thanksgiving. You know, the feast that we begin to see taking place in the harvest season. I know many people begin to have whitewash trauma due to the Thanksgiving season only because we've been taught about it from one point of view. In the Hebraic concept, this Thanksgiving season would be the Feast of Sukkoth or the Feast of Tabernacle, taking place between October and November. We'll say late September as well, September to October, okay? And so this feast was celebrated by the Native Indians, and it was called the Green Corn Grain Mother Goddess. It was her feast day. The grain mother goddess goes back to Mesopotamia by the name of Nisaba. It's essential to understand that Native Indians began to have these stone pillars in cave that they began to call hoodoo. These figurines are also seen throughout the caves in Africa. These figurines are seen in Saudi Arabia, the Ukraine, Turkey, Peru, so on and so forth. This is hoodoo, a type of praise. So it not only means thanksgiving, but it means praise. It's essential to understand that the root of hoodoo is yada. So when we begin to see the Europeans get a hold to the Arabic, the Aramaic, the Hebrew translations of the Bible, instead of saying hoodoo, they place yada there. Because if they kept hoodoo in the biblical context, then we would not have been taken away from our culture and it would have not been allowed to be demonized because we would understand that hoodoo is the praise and thanksgiving system of these Afro-Asiatic people groups. And this is why we begin to say, when the praises go up, the blessings come down, because this is a form of hoodoo, the as above, so below. Whatever goes up must come down. Gravity is a concept of hoodoo. It is not a scientific fixed term that we begin to be taught. When we take a further step into the word hoodoo in Arabic, this is going to be hoodoo or huda, Huduhuda. This word means a guide, a boundary. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a guide or a hoodoo unto my pathway. It's essential to understand that the Hebrew, the Aramaic, the Arabic were birthed out of the same language as Phoenician, and the root of this language is going to be the Syriac. The Syriac language was birthed out of Eber's son, I'm sorry, Shem's son Aram. This is where you get the Aramaic language that Yeshu began to speak. When we begin to look at the Phoenician language, it birthed the Greek language in 900 BC. Therefore, when you see the same root in Greek of and the word hudos, when Yeshua began to say, I am the way, this was him saying, I am the hoodoo in Arabic. And in Phoenician, and in Greek, excuse me, he said, I am the hoodoos, the emet, the truth, and the light. So Yeshu declared himself as the guide. When we begin to look at the Mahdi in Islam, the Mahdi, the Mahdi has the same root as HDY. This root is the same root as hoodoo. And Mahdi is the guide who was prophesied to come back alongside Yeshu. But when we begin to read the Aramaic translation of what he said, I am the Mahdi. I am the way. So when we begin to look at hoodoo and yada, this is the same word or root as Judah. The tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi and Simeon were sent into Persian captivity, and you will begin to see them in Libya, Morocco, Mauritania, Persia, Arabia, Mecca, Medina, all of these places due to Persian captivity, and plus they were native to these lands. When they began to enter into Persia, into India, it's very important to know that the Elamites, whom is also a son of Shem, is where you begin to get the Persians, your Indians. So when the tribe of Hoodoo or the tribe of Judah began to go into West and Eastern Asia, they end up being called Hindu. And we see that the word Hindu, Hindu, that IND is the same root as Indian or India or indigo. And so when we begin to look at the shade of indigo, this will take us back to the Tuareg people of Central and West Africa, with them being described as blue people. This is going to take us to the Picts, who are the Aborigines of Brighton, as painting people. This is going to take us to the word blue in Ireland, and the word blue in Arabic, and the word blue in Hebrew, which means blacken, correlating the Hindus for the Hoodoos, or the tribe of Judah, who would be called Indian regardless of what landmass they were placed in, because it was a connotation for black skin. The color blue was also used to dye the robes of the high priest, which is why you will see my hoodoo practicing Gullah Geechee ancestors with their indigo tips of their fingers. You will also find these people in Central and West Africa who not only practice Islam, as Yeshua Bar Yosef began to say, be doers of peace. He was telling you to practice Islam, to submit. That's what Islam means, to one Elohim, as Deuteronomy 6 and 4 begins to state, and as Yeshua began to tell us that there is only one. And so when you begin to look at the book of Luke, Zacharias, the father of John the Baptist, began to say that he was a guide, hoodoos, as well as a teacher of peace, Islam. And this is why you begin to see Islam and hoodoo being practiced in Central and West Africa coming into the Americas. I hope you guys have ascertained the fact that hoodoo is native to Africa. food for thought.